Understanding what's going on uh, with with the concept, let's say, of fraud, or the concept of uh, section 1592 violation, or section 592. uh, it's it's something which is, I think, extremely important as you deal further in your careers, because this stuff will come up. So I will cover it in a way, uh, more or less briefly, because this is a Q&A format. But if you wanna see more discussion on this, there is a video which is published on, which is attached to the chapter. So you just scan a QR code with your phone, and you'll be able to watch my discussion from earlier classes in a bigger in a more substantial detail. So real briefly, um, one thing that I wanted to say. So, so number one, Section 592. Always for me, it was kind of like a difficult concept to comprehend. Like at one point they say 19 USC 1592, then they say Section 592, but they all really mean the same thing. Where do these guys come from? All right, so let me take a quick minute and talk about this. So normally, when the law is being enacted by the Congress, uh, they enact it as a some way of public law. So PL something something. If so, it would be public. It would be designated as a public law. Of course, you have circumstances where sometimes a private law would be enacted, which normally pertains to a particular entity, but that is more rare occurrence. So that public law come, and usually within that public law, they would pro provide the name for that public law that has been enacted. In this case, we're talking about Tariff Act. Oops, pardon my writing. So in this case, we're talking about the Tariff Act of 1930 as amended. As amended. Because it gets amended quite frequently. Now, once the Tariff Act has sections. So, like in this case, it has. We're talking about Section 592. Section 592. Then, what the government administrators do is they take this particular act and they codify it. They codify it depending by the agency. So in our case, it would be Customs, Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection. What they do is they codify it into what called titles. So this time it would be Title 19, United States Code, and it would be under Section 1592. Notice that 592 and 1592 correspond to each other. That is generally speaking the rule, but that is not always the case. Sometimes section may be one thing, but it will be codified under totally different thing. But generally speaking, that's how it is. So a little bit about understanding of 592. Now, remember I said there is a procedural section within the part 171, and there is also the section that deals with the substance. Substance, by substance I mean uh, the the standards, the legal standard for CBP to operate and for customs brokers to operate, so that way everyone knows where they are and without pointing fingers at each other. And that is, as I mentioned, that is done uh, by within the regulation by providing appendices. So those appendices are at the end of part 171, and of course in this case we're dealing with part 59, well, section 592. That means that we're going to appendix B. And appendix B, generally speaking, provides guidelines for imposition and mitigation of penalties for violations pursuant to 1592. So guidelines for whom? Guidelines for customs, but of course guidelines for the international trade community. The guidelines for customs brokers. Whenever one files petition for relief, like uh, in my practice, I use those guidelines as a basic jumping board to say, though this is the framework, and within this framework, those are the facts which one must apply. So what is the framework in this case? Well, uh, remember my speech that I drew on the board about that section 1592, right? So that's what they refer to, the section 1592. 1980 1592 hereinafter refers to as section 592. So that that one short sentence they described what I've talked about. Now going to violations. What are those violations? Well, as I mentioned, um, these refer to violations that include negligence, that include gross negligence, and that include fraud. Extremely important. Each word is heavily uh, uh, has heavy meanings, and this is the reason why I think it would not be productive to talk about various interpretations. Sometimes it's easier to remember what that particular standard is associated with, but basically to to be liable under 1592, under um, uh, to be liable under that section, you have to be either negligent, grossly negligent, or fraudulent. Now, of course, we all watch movies, we all see the crime dramas, we are generally aware of when someone says, "Oh, you're negligent." We kind of generally know what that means. If someone says, "Fraud," "Oh, you defrauded me" or something, we kind of generally know what that means. So I think that provides a good uh, background which we can fill in with more buzzwords which can help one. And those buzzwords, specifically in this case, the fraud, is the objective of this particular question on a customs license broker exam. So the buzzword for negligence is the standard of care, degree of reasonable care. So to be negligent, imagine this perfect world where you have a prudent person. In our case, it would be a reasonably prudent customs broker. That reasonably prudent customs broker, you don't want to be his friend because that reasonably prudent customs broker is very boring. He always follows the regulation. He never makes a mistakes. He doesn't do anything for fun. He doesn't take risks. He or she, or it, right? In case of corporate broker, it is someone or something which is always reading the books and follows the statutes. So that would be reasonably prudent customs license broker. Now that's a standard. And then uh, that reasonably prudent licensed customs broker at, sticks to that reasonable care standard. Now the question is, if you go below that reasonable care standard, then you are negligent. If you stick to or above that reasonable care standard, then you are not, obviously. So reasonable care is a very important concept. Of course, it's very important to understand that a small licensed customs broker, notwithstanding his amount of reasonable care, is his standard would not be the same as the really large licensed customs broker, who have the department full of attorneys, in addition to licensed customs broker, who all they do is read the law, read the case law, interpret it, and apply it to the facts on the ground. Because a small guy, what the small guy can do is not much for the large guy. So that's why we're talking about reasonable standard of care. If you go below, negligence applies. If you go above, not or at or above, no negligence. Gross negligence is and fraud. They're kind of like bundled together, and normally in a common law, because this stuff come from the common law. If you driving and you see a billboard, personal injury attorneys, for example, they talk about, oh, we're gonna fight for you vigorously, blah blah blah. They mostly deal with negligence, right? Gross negligence and fraud, this is mostly a creature of statute, and not the common law. Fraud is a creature of common law, but, which is in English land. It's kind of like judicially made, not legislatively written. But nevertheless, the background of these guys relates to, in case of gross negligence, to actual knowledge of wanton disregard and indifference. So actual knowledge and wanton disregard. So in other words, you have to, as an officer of, let's say, customs brokerage, as a vice president of a customs brokerage, you have to go through the checklist. You have to go through, as we shall later see, like, let's say, general application of GRIs, general law of interpretation, to classification process. You have to have your documents in order, and if you don't, you have to have some kind of review to make sure this is good. Your avoidance or kind of like closing your eyes to this doesn't help it, and so and your disregard, meaning that you should have known something is happening, but you close the eyes to it, is something which does not allow customs brokers, some of them, to sleep well at night, because they always think about, well, should I have asked for this document? Should I have asked for these documents? Fraud is the most stringent level of culpability, and it has to be a false statement, number one, or omission. So you either say it or don't say it. in connection to the transaction, committed or omitted, made or not made, which was done with knowledge, and it was done intentionally and voluntarily, meaning like no one was holding a gun to your head. And the proof is clear and convincing evidence. So in the world of legalese, we have various standards. So we have preponderance of evidence, which is like 50 or more. We have the most stringent one in criminal law, right? The beyond a reasonable doubt. Clear and convincing is somewhere in between. And also it has to be material. So this is the key to applying the labels. So now, after having digested this, we can go back to the question.